Hey guys, Pastor Paul here, and as we continue through our a little bit of our video discipleship ministry, newly founded about 2 weeks ago now, I just wanted to drop you a word on something that the Lord has been teaching and even convicting me about in my own life over these past couple of weeks of this unprecedented time that we're in. And that has been practicing, legitimately practicing the presence of God. I think as men, especially with our own pride and our own desire to lead, to impress, to be in the know, there can be a time where we really grasp after every piece of information, every piece of knowledge, want to be on the cutting edge of being the first to know. And sometimes I think we can confuse that with leadership. We can confuse that with being able to lead, whether it's a family, a church ministry, even in your own job, your peer group, and maybe even extended family. But the reality is that that's not necessarily leadership. In fact, creating that desire, that appetite for information, even in a case like this, in a situation like we're in, what it does sometimes is it just continues to foster, it continues to build, and it just is never satisfied. And I think back to, in the Gospels, I think back to a very specific situation with Jesus and his disciples, and from John chapter 6. And it tells us that it was shortly after feeding of the 5,000 on the east coast of the Sea of Galilee. And Jesus, as he often did, he went away and to a secluded place to pray. And the disciples were ready to relocate, and so they went down and got in the boat on the Sea of Galilee in the evening. And it tells us there in John 6 that as they didn't wait for Jesus, and they went out and they launched and they rowed and they got out into the middle of the sea, and a huge storm came up. And again, just having been there a couple of months ago, it's easy to see based on the topography of how storms come up there, and not because it's a giant sea, but because of the way that it's laid out, in that the Sea of Galilee is about 600 or 700 feet below sea level, and the way the land rises all around it, it makes it into a bowl, so it doesn't take much of a front, much of a wind current to create swirling winds on that open water. And it was normal. It was normal for large waves and a large sea, and for it to be a dangerous situation. And what's interesting in that passage, though, is that it doesn't say that the disciples were afraid. It says that they were afraid when, during that storm, that they looked out and they saw Jesus walking on the water coming towards them. It says then they were afraid. And it's kind of interesting because, again, these were experienced fishermen, so they were accustomed to the storms like that. But what made them afraid was that they actually saw Jesus as God, because no one ever tamed the sea, and the sea was having no impact on him. He was literally walking on the water. And it was another reminder to them that he was God. And when he came close to the boat, he told them, don't be afraid. It is I, he says in that passage. And in the original, that literally means I am. I am. And the passage goes on to tell us that immediately the boat was on the other shore. Now, again, we don't know if that meant something supernatural took place, or John just didn't pin them finishing the rowing with Jesus on board or whatever. But regardless, it was the presence of Jesus that changed everything. And I just want to encourage you not to spend excess time trying to figure out everything about this current situation. Don't spend time crunching numbers, and don't spend excess time tracking the stats and trying to come up with your own conclusion, and even evaluating the news media on who's right, who's wrong, who's fair, who's unfair. In the end, none of that really matters. But if you'll spend extra time practicing and lingering in the presence of God, specifically in His Word, and maybe even more specifically in times apart in meditation and thinking through His Word and talking to Him. I've mentioned a couple of times over the past couple of weeks, prayer walks are wonderful things. If you'll spend time practicing the presence of God, it's going to impact your life far beyond this crisis. It's going to help you impact the lives of others. Again, your wife, your family, even your grandchildren, whatever your stage of life is. And certainly it's going to help you impact our church. If you make the presence of God a reality in your life and the focus of your life, and in the end, the love of your life. So just a quick word on Friday, and trust you have a great rest of your day, and hope you look forward to checking out the message on Sunday with your family and other friends, and stay safe, and let us know if we can help you in any way. God bless.